Ray McGovern is with us. I'm having him on to talk about this memo that was released, this Devin Nunes memo, that lays out the case that the FBI has been engaged in trying to interfere with the election of Donald Trump. So we're going to talk about what this all means. Is it a nothing burger, as some people have said, or is there something here? And if so, what is it? Ray McGovern, he was a CIA analyst from 1963 to 1990. In the 1980s, he chaired national intelligence estimates and prepared the president's daily brief. He was responsible for the analysis of Soviet policy in Vietnam. Upon his retirement, he received the Intelligence Commendation Medal, but he returned it in 2006 to protest the CIA's involvement in torture. In 2003, he co-founded Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. That group issued a letter saying that intelligence analysts were not being listened to by policymakers. Well, then, in February 2011, at George Washington University, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was giving a speech, and McGovern stood silently with his back turned during her remarks, and he wound up being arrested for disorderly conduct. Anyway, extremely interesting guy, very, very bright, very informed, and very knowledgeable about Russia. In fact, his formal studies were about Russia. So, Ray, welcome back.
Thank you.
So there was a memo released pertaining to the FBI against Trump, and it had to do with the use of a dossier. Just give me what you would tell somebody about what was important about that memo.
The immediate Donnybrook has to do with the House Intelligence Committee, led by Devin Nunes from California, doing its job. Now, this hasn't happened in decades. Nunes has required the FBI to serve up documents which indicate that the most senior officials of the FBI and the Department of Justice interfered with the 2016 election. They caused a dossier to be composed by an ex-British foreign intelligence officer, and that was used as an essential justification before the court to get permission to intercept, to monitor, to surveil this fellow named Page, who was working for Trump. When you get permission to surveil one person, everyone with whom that person has been in touch is also surveilled, and everyone who has been in touch with that second person is also surveilled. Now, think of the possibilities here if just one of those people is on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So what they did was they got permission to surveil people in the Trump campaign, and that's a violation of the law put into place after J. Edgar Hoover was discovered to have been doing this all the time. What do we have now? Now we have documentary proof that these FISA court applications were based on extremely frivolous, demonstrably wrong information from this hired hand that the FBI recruited. Now, MI6, which is the British Foreign Intelligence Service, its opposite number is CIA, not the FBI. And my friends tell me that it is unprecedented that the FBI would go hire a former MI6 officer. That has to do with the CIA. Implication here, the CIA, NSA, and the FBI were all involved to make sure, number one, Trump could never win. And number two, if he did win, there was a kind of insurance policy to make sure that he was disabled from doing anything he wanted to do once he did get elected. And those things worked. But now it's being revealed how it worked and how the FBI and the Department of Justice approved these warrants at the highest level on the basis of spurious information. And the key here is that the media in this country are unwilling to realize that they've been spinning a yarn that is now demonstrably false.
This is CNN.
Now, this is important. This is really important because, as Mark Twain said, it's far easier to deceive people than it is to persuade them that they've been deceived.
The counter argument that we've been hearing is that these FISA warrants would have been sought with or without the dossier. So therefore, the whole thing is a tempest in a teapot.
The Nunes memo says that the dossier formed an essential part of the justification for the FISA application to allow surveillance on Trump people. First and foremost, Carter Page. Now, when I say first and foremost, the media would have you believe that this had to do only with Carter Page. And as I said before, we know from NSA documents and from NSA people who used to work there that this isn't just Carter Page. This is everybody with whom Carter Page has been in contact, including the next hop. In other words, not only his family and his associates in the campaign, but everybody that talked to them as well. So this is really serious. And for people to say that, oh, well, it may have been part of the justification for the FISA memo, we'll see now when the documents are released whether they really say an essential part. Now, if they had enough on Carter Page to pursue a FISA application for surveillance, then they didn't need the dossier. So why would they use this very scurrilous and unprovable dossier unless they felt they needed it? Again, the heads of the Justice Department have to sign off on these FISA warrants. So they willingly cooperated here. Comey did it 3 times as head of the FBI. And the others, there are 5 of them, I think, that were all either in the Justice Department at the very highest level or Comey's successors in McCabe, for example, who took over, so who was deputy. And McCabe, this is interesting. Andy McCabe had abruptly resigned. Now, everyone was surprised at that because McCabe had said, I'm going to hang on until March because then I get my full retirement. Senior people like McCabe can squirrel away all their annual leave, or most of it. And when they retire, they get a lump sum. In cases like McCabe at that very senior level, this means $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 extra, like a little bonus, okay? Now, I did the same thing when I was in the Army, right? I was in the Army for 2 years. Then I got $2,000. I was able to buy a car with that. Okay, now it's $100,000. So what McCabe wanted to do is linger on in the apparatus and wait till March when he could retire at full benefits. Now, what happened? His boss, Christopher Wray, head of the FBI, was given a look at this Nunes memorandum. And Wray was described as being stunned. What did he do? He got on the phone and said, Andy, don't come to work tomorrow, okay? I'll tell you about it later, but we don't want you around here anymore, and we're not going to let you retire in March with the extra $100,000 lump sum. That tells you Andy McCabe was fully involved in all this scurrilous extra-constitutional activity. And we have further proof of that. There are these 2 lovers in the FBI, Peter Strzok and his lover, Lisa Page. She was one of the lead attorneys for Andy McCabe. Now, we have all these text messages. We got them from the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, who's running an inquiry on all this stuff, ironically, to uncover evidence of collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign. So he gets these messages, and the first thing he discovers is Peter Strzok saying to Lisa, now we can talk on this. And she said, are you sure? We're not mind. We can talk about Hillary Clinton. That's on this line. He says, yeah. It's a company phone. Now, this would be excusable if he were some lower level analyst or something. But he's the deputy head of counterintelligence. And he doesn't know that the NSA and the FBI collect everything, including text messages. He says to Lisa, what you just said in Andy's office, nobody denies that this is Andy McCabe's office for whom she was working. What you just said in Andy's, I really want to believe, Trump has no chance to win. So I want to believe that. But Lisa, we need an insurance policy. It's sort of like if you're 40 years old, you're not going to die, but you take out an insurance policy anyway. So we need to do that, Lisa. And later she says, yes, we were dependent on you. You're doing a great job and you're in the right place to make this all happen. Now, who's Peter Strzok? Well, he's the guy that supervised the exoneration of Hillary Clinton. He let her off. How do we know that? Because he changed the wording from terms that would have almost required prosecution. Now, how did he get at this? Did he put Hillary or any of her people under oath? No. Did he make a record of his interviews with them? No. Did they say things during the interviews that they knew were not true? Yeah, they did, but they let get them off anyway. Who was the guy? Peter Strzok. Now, later, he becomes the guy that's the point man for the insurance policy. Now, what's the insurance policy? We double back here and say, dossier, prepared by a guy who had worked for the FBI, okay? They told him to do this. They knew quite well that it was not supported by any evidence. Even James Comey said it was scurrilous and not supported by evidence, but they used it anyway before the court. Now, big bottom line here, okay? How in the world did they think they were going to get away with that? I mean, these are felonies. They could be put in jail forever because there's five years for each count. Well, the answer is very simple. Hillary was going to win. Everyone knew that Hillary was going to win. The thing was wired Who would vote for this idiot Trump, this scurrilous guy who does these things to women? Hillary's going to win. And so it's just a little bit extra insurance. Now, what happened? Hillary didn't win. And now these guys who violated basic laws and the Constitution are going to have to pay the piper. The big question is whether the House Intelligence Committee, under the leadership of this relatively new Devin Nunes, Republican from California, have the guts to pursue this against the deep state and, equally important, against the mainstream media and the so-called progressive media.
In light of that comment you just made, I'm just curious to get your response to that famous notorious Chuck Schumer comment when he said, "Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you." That should have sent a chill up the spine of every American, but half of America apparently listened to that and said, yeah, they can really get you, yeah. And that they thought that was normal. That's not normal.
I hope it's not normal. It didn't used to be normal, okay? And I thought, wow, Schumer just lost it. Schumer has been around over 30 years. 15 years, as I recall, in the House, 15 years in the Senate now. And he's saying this scurrilous thing about how the CIA has a hold on the president of the United States. He must have just lost it. Well, I don't know about that anymore. It happens to reflect reality. And maybe this was Schumer's way of saying, look, we don't want to get into this. We Democrats, we like the way the FBI and the deep state is subverting or suborning all the people who work for Trump. So beware, if you take these guys on, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. It was pretty blatant. Here in this town, in November of 2016, there was a shock beyond all shocks I have witnessed when Hillary Clinton did not win. Just a couple weeks after the New York Times gave her an 83% chance of winning, there was PTSD big time. Now, the cognoscenti here, the smart people, couldn't abide the notion that Hillary was quite capable of losing this election all by herself, that she didn't need the Russians, that very few people trusted her, that she was guilty of capricious use of classified information. Nobody thought about that. No, it couldn't have been that. It had to be the Russians.
The Russians are coming! The Russians are coming!
Let me tell you, this was a very, very carefully planned, coordinated offensive. It went back to June 2016 when Julian Assange announced that he had emails relating to Hillary Clinton and that he was about to publish them. Whoa! That was just 6 weeks before the Democratic National Convention. My God, what do we do? Well, I have this vision of Hillary sitting around with her main advisor saying, oh my God, if he's got DNC emails, they show how he stacked the deck against Bernie Sanders. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And somebody says, I got an idea. We'll blame the Russians. This is a twofer. We hate the Russians. We hate Julian Assange. We'll say that the Russians hacked and gave the material to Julian Assange. And then when Julian reveals this, that, my God, he might do that even before the convention, we'll turn the whole mainstream press into a microphone that says, why did the Russians do this? Why did the Russians do this? And no one will look at the texts of the emails which show that Bernie was gypped out of the election.